Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you what our elf on the shelves have got up to over the past couple of Christmases. There are 50 different things that they've done that are in this video, and they even arrived a little bit early this year to share some ideas just in case there are any elves watching. And I also wanted to say, if you don't have an elf that visits you during December, don't worry, it's probably because you're so well behaved that you don't actually need an elf to be watching over you. But my three cheeky boys definitely need someone watching them and then reporting back to Santa as to whether they've been naughty or nice. But anyway, with all that said, let me show you what they've done. So our elves came back on December the 1st, and on that day they actually rode out in Skittles, "We're back." The boys were so excited to find this message left for them and that they had written this out. It was really brightly coloured, and they also got to eat a few of the Skittles. And what about this? We found our elves wearing a tiny little elf-sized COVID-19 mask. He was also sitting in a hammock, which was a mask, and another elf had some hand sanitizer. This is a new idea for 2020, so any elves watching, you might also like this idea. On the next day, we found our elves with lots of red cups turned over, and they also had a sign that said "Find the hidden treat," and this was really exciting for the boys. And one morning we came down to find that our elves were trying to roast marshmallows, and they left us the ingredients to make s'mores. So we had digestive biscuits, we had chocolate, the marshmallows themselves, and they actually had a little sign that said "Let's make s'mores." Then on another day, we actually came downstairs to find that our elf was stuck in the TV. It said, "I hit the wrong button on the remote. How do I get out of here?" We don't know how he got in there, but we managed to get him out. And the next day, he actually did this to one of our family portraits, put little red noses onto everyone's face, and he also had a red nose on as well. What about this? Once we found our elves having what looked to be a full-on sports day with some of the toys. They were doing sack races, they had bean bags to play beanbag toss, and even what looked like little hula hoops. And we also found our elves once working out and lifting weights, but the weights that they were lifting were actually marshmallows on a toothpick. And one day we came downstairs to find that they wanted to play elf bingo. They had printed out bingo sheets. There was even instructions on how to play and chocolate coins to use as markers. So I will link this game down below because I actually found a printable if anyone else wants to play elf bingo. And on another day, we found that our elf had actually made a little swing out of a toilet paper roll and some string. And sadly, one day our elf actually got unwell and got reindeer flu. So we saw him one day with a little blanket on, some little tissues, and some reindeer flu pills for his medicine. So we were worried that he wasn't going to move for a few days, but luckily he was okay. Then this was probably our kids' favorite one. This is so cool. We found the elves with a sign one day that said, "Want to see a rainbow? Just add hot water." Obviously, they needed mummy or daddy to help them pour in the hot water to this circle of Skittles. But when we did pour in the hot water, we got to watch a rainbow form in the bowl. This was so cool to watch, really exciting as well. And the next one was really cool. We found them with a sign one day that said, "Let's do a trick, sprinkle some magic elf dust and let me do my magic." So the kids sprinkled some of those little sprinkles onto the eggs, and then we waited to see what would happen. And then the next morning when we came down, they had magically turned into Kinder Egg surprises, and they had a little sign that said "Ta-da!" and the kids were thrilled with this. Then on another day, we found the elf playing the boys' favorite game, The Floor is Lava. He was up on a window to avoid the floor. Got our kids playing it as well. And our elf was actually so naughty one day, we found him with nail polish and a sign that said, "I left your dad a funny treat. Go find him now and look at his feet." And we found that the elf had actually painted Daddy's toenails. So then the day after that, we actually found our elf in timeout. He had built a little Lego chair, was facing the corner, and had a little sign that said timeout for being so very cheeky. And one day we also found all of our elves tangled up in some floss, and they had a sign that said, "Is this how you do the floss?" We thought this was really funny because our boys love to dance the floss, and obviously this is not how you do it. And on another day, it took us ages to find our elves, but when we did, we found they were treating our tumble dryer like a roller coaster. They were sat on the side with their hands in the air, so we think that they were probably going round and round all night. And on another day, we actually found them having a popcorn party in our microwave. There was popcorn everywhere. There was a little sign that said popcorn party, and they were just sat in the middle of all of it. And again, there was another day when they were very hard to find, but when we did finally find them in the fridge, we found that our elf had glued little googly eyes to some fruit, some milk, some Tupperware, and some sauces. And we thought that this was hilarious. And on a Tuesday, we came down to find them with a sign that said it's Taco Tuesday, and two of the elves had been rolled up in a taco shell or a wrap, and they'd cut out little holes for their faces. Then on another day, we actually found them making breakfast for the kids, but it really wasn't the kind of breakfast that we would like them to have. It was sweets and candy and marshmallows, and they were sat on the stove stirring it all. And speaking of breakfast, we also found them with a Lucky Charms box, but they had taken out the leprechaun's head and actually put an elf through the box. And I've also seen elves do this with the Rice Krispie boxes as well. And once they had a go at even making a packed lunch, they had a little sign that said, "I packed your lunch, I hope you like it," but it was very random. There was Tabasco sauce, a can of beans, some treats, and a jar of jam as well. Then we also found one day, one of the elves was actually making a choir out of our fruit. There were little faces on all of the grapefruit and the bananas, and our elf was holding a little wand as like a conductor, and was, I think, teaching them how to do choir practice. And we also thought that this was really funny. One day we found our elf sitting on loads of peas, and he'd actually written out, "Oops, I peed." The kids thought this was hilarious, and now I'll show you what our elves got up to in Christmas 2019. So on the first day that the elf visited us, he was sliding down our banister in a little sleigh that it looks like he made out of an old ribbon box, some string, and candy canes. On the next day, we found two of our cheeky elves with a black marker and a bunch of bananas, and they had drawn little minions onto our bananas, and the boys thought this was the best thing ever, and they really wanted to take one of the bananas to school for a snack. The next day, we woke up to find that our elf had actually cooked the boys an elf breakfast. This was the same breakfast that we saw in the movie Elf, so this must be what they actually eat. It was spaghetti, syrup, chocolate chips, and sprinkles. One morning, we woke up to two of our elves having a snowball fight on our kitchen counter. They had built little walls of marshmallows to protect them, and they were throwing small marshmallows at each other, and the boys loved tasting some of them. And one day we came down to find that the elves had drawn on our eggs, and they had written Merry Xmas on the eggs. So because we had all of these in, I then made eggs for breakfast and French toast as well. And once we found our elf pulling a little Santa sleigh of sweets, which was made out of a stack of chocolate bars, 2 candy canes, and a chocolate Santa. These were all sellotaped together and then had a ribbon on it as well. And we've actually made these before to go alongside Christmas cards. They're really fun and easy to make, and you can get everything to make them just from the supermarket or even Poundland. And one day we found our cheeky elf in our box of celebrations, and he had been eating them. There was wrappers everywhere, and he left a note saying, "Well done for being good boys, take 2 chocolates." And he also brought us a really cute little Christmas tree with mini decorations and tinsel. He decorated some of it, and then the boys decorated some of it as well, and he was all wrapped up in the ribbon. Then the next morning, he left a plant pot out that was full of oatmeal, and there was a little sign that said, "Plant 4 chocolate chips and see what happens tomorrow." So the boys planted 4 chocolate chips, and there was also a few extras. And then the next morning, when the boys woke up and came down to the plant pot, they had actually grown into candy canes. So there was then 4 candy canes, and the boys could have 1 each. And once we found the elves being really adventurous, they had hung a zip line from our Christmas tree to our set of shelves, and they were zip lining across it on candy canes. And on one day, we found that our elf had built a snowman out of our toilet rolls. He'd added buttons, eyes, and a nose, and he'd written a little sign that said, "Do you want to build a snowman?" And the naughtiest thing that we found our elf doing was he once got into our Nutella pot, was eating it, and then also wrote poo on our countertops. And you'll notice that our elf must have a thing about toilet roll because he used it quite a few times last year when he surprised us. So one day we actually found him sitting on the Christmas tree, and he had added a decoration of toilet roll all around the tree. We also found our elves making snowflakes one day out of paper and using scissors. Luckily, I was there to stop the boys from grabbing the scissors, and then we actually made our own snowflakes as well. And remember I said that our elves seem to have a thing about toilet roll? Well, one morning we came downstairs and found that all of our elves had got into the toilet roll and thrown themselves down the stairs. I don't know if they were doing races or what, but it made a huge mess. And I think this next one is my personal favorite. One day we came downstairs to find that our elves had gift wrapped our toilet. They had the tape, they had the gift wrap, and a big ribbon around the toilet as well. And it looked so funny to see and very festive. The boys also thought that this next one was hilarious. One morning we came downstairs to see that our elf was having a poo in our sink, and he was pooing out chocolate drops, which the boys were very happy to try. And this next one is just so adorable. One day we found 2 of our elves having a spa day. They must have needed to relax because they were wrapped up in our hand cloths. One was laying down with cucumbers on its eyes, and one was even soaking his feet in marshmallows. And almost every year we will find that on one of the days our elf has made snow angels from our flour. He must get into the cupboards, throw this on the floor and do a snow angel. And once our poor elf got trapped by our Lego men. He was on the Lego table and he was trapped under some string which they had just put under each piece of Lego and then attached it to the table. And yeah, they were all around him and they were almost holding him hostage. And our elf must have made friends while he was here in December, because one day we found him reading Christmas stories to some of our favorite toys. And this is the cutest thing I've ever seen. One day the elves actually made tiny elf donuts. They were so small, almost the size of Cheerios. They had icing and sprinkles and chocolate on them, and they must have been put into a little matchbox because they were so tiny. And on Christmas Eve, we found our elf in the bathroom. It took ages to find him, but he was there with the toothpaste and he had written "Ho, ho, ho" on our bathroom wall. Sometimes on Christmas Eve, he'll also bring our Christmas Eve box, but it just depends. But that is it for this video. That is everything that our elf got up to last year when he visited in December. I hope you really liked these ideas. To any of the elves that are watching, let me know which one was your favorite in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. There's loads more Christmas content to come, so if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please click the subscribe button below. It's completely free and I would love to have you as a viewer. So yes, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.